call the April 13th, 2021 Committee of the Whole to order at 6:33 p.m. Would you take the roll, please, Ms. Henry?
Alderman Emerson,
Here.
Alderman Ward,
Here.
Alderman Asia,
Here.
Alderman Hunt,
Here.
Alderman Mims, Alderman Bill Van Busker,
Here.
Alderman Walters, Alderman Mary Jane Van Busker,
Here.
Alderman Green,
He's excused. He won't be here in this meeting. He'll be next one.
Alderman Myers,
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. All right. We ask for approval of the March 2nd, 2021 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes, I'm sorry. Ms. Van Buskirk, you have.
So move. So move.
And Ms.
Second.
Emerson, you have the second. Anybody got any conversation on such? Once, twice? All right, call the roll, please.
Alderman Mary Jane Van Busker,
Yes.
Alderman Emerson,
Yes.
Alderman Ward,
Yes.
Alderman Asia,
Yes.
Alderman Hunt,
Yes.
Alderman Bill Van Busker,
Yes.
Alderman Myers,
Here. Heard yes.
All
Alderman
right,
Walters. I'm not sure he's there yet. Okay.
yeah, he's still not with us.
Okay.
All right, motion passes 7-0. Okay, we're gonna move on to rental dwelling maintenance regulations presentation. Ray Hadarapur, Community Development Director. Good sir, what have you got for us?
Good evening, everyone. I will defer to Alderman Myers to start the introduction. Then I'll have some slide and some comments, and if there's any question, I'll be more than happy to answer after that.
Thanks, Ray. So just to get started, this has been a work in progress over the last several years. And, we finally voted on it early last year, late 2019. I really just wanted to say thank you to all the staff that have been working with our rental regulations. That's our, demo, as well as our permit techs. They've worked tirelessly over the last year, and especially over the last 30 days. Just in one day, they went through 50 rental applications. And without them, this ordinance would not work. So at the end of the day, I just wanted to say thank you, and myself, and I'm sure most of my colleagues here would appreciate all the work that you guys have done. And I look forward to implementing this. So with that, I will turn it over to Ray, and we can get some questions done at the end of this.
Thank you, Alderman Myers. What I'm going to do first, I'm going to show you a few slides and just give you a brief idea as far as what's the rental program about and what we ask a property owner as far as inspection related activities that need to be whether repaired or fixed or taken care of. I'm going to try to do this slide here. Let's see. Does everyone can see the slides?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. The provision of this ordinance basically applies to non-owner occupied properties, all rental dwellings and rental dwelling units. Sometimes there's a confusion as far as non-owner occupied properties. What it means by that is if a property owner living on the property for less than 6 months, then that's considered non-owner occupied property. The rental dwelling inspections that we normally inspect with when an inspector have an inspection appointment made with the property owner, manager, or tenant, then these items are the main items that we look at which is also it's approved in the ordinance by Board of Aldermen. Smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors, handrails, guardrails, egress and access, electric service outlets and fixtures, pest exterminations, windows and doors, utilities, safe and clean common areas like hallways type area, sanitary fixtures and appliances, and display an address on the building. And then at the bottom, there is a link that if anybody interested as far as individual to look the entire ordinance up, that's on our website. Smoke detector and the CO2s, it's a basic unit, very inexpensive to install, very easy to install. Address on the building. It's one of the requirements that in case an emergency response unit need to find a property, they'll be able to locate that particular property if there's a need to respond to an emergency call. Proper connection of utilities, water, electric, gas, that all need to be done in sanitary, in a clean manner. And each dwelling units need to be capable of providing hot and cold water and electricity in an efficient manner. All appliances need to be properly installed by licensed and professional contractor and to be in a working condition. Electricity and outlets and fixtures, GFI is a requirement. All outlets need to be covered and no exposed wire need to be shown, which has created a safety hazard for the resident. Doors, windows, and screens. Any broken doors, broken windows and screens, and need to be in a proper and good condition in order to prevent insect or any kind of bugs or roaches or any items that infiltrate within the house. Handrails and guardrails, those are the requirements as far as to protect kids or even individuals living on the property. Egress and access. In an emergency situation, the hallway or an access for an individual or tenant be able to leave the building in a safe and unobstructed manner. And then, of course, this is the last item as far as being outside the property, to be grass be mowed, a vehicle, an inoperable vehicle need to be removed from the property, trash and shrub or yard to be kept in a clean manner. And the last item here I really like to talk about, there is a lot of misinformation out in the public that there's a myth what we can do and what we can't do. I want to go over those and explain some of these items that we've been hearing out in the public. The city makes you renovate the entire property and brings it to up to today's code. That's not accurate. The city will only ask the property owner to maintain or keep the items that was approved in the ordinance. Inspection are done with that appointment. That's not an accurate information. The inspector and staff, they always make an appointment before they enter the property. The city will do inspection without authorization. That's not accurate. The inspector or staff will always ask for authorization, whether it's a property owner, tenant, or the property manager before they inspect the property. The program is too expensive. This is one of the main items that we hear a lot. The cost of a permit of the inspection for a single family home, it's a $35 for a 2-year permit, which comes up to $1.45 per month. So I don't believe there is any program citywide that will beat our permit costs here. Another myth is vacant properties not for rent need to be inspected. That's not accurate. We don't require to inspect vacant properties if they are not rented and sitting vacant. Even though we have another code regulation, if a property is sitting for more than 90 days, they need to be registered, and there is no cost for that. They just need to be registered as a vacant property. My house is for sale and must be inspected by the city. That also not accurate comment that's been circulating out of the public. The property does not to be inspected if it's not for, we don't get involved as far as the house being on sale or not. We don't inspect the property just because the house is on sale. Potential buyer must have the city inspect the property before the purchase. That also is not accurate. There's a lot of comments out there that when a new owner buys a property, have to inspect the property before the owner gets finalized. It's a good idea for the new owner to contact the city and get familiar with the program, but we don't require the property to be inspected before the sale was finalized. As Alderman Meyer mentioned, the staff tirelessly have worked for the past year by conducting meetings, posting in social media, Facebook, and mailings. We have sent over 3,180 notices to property owners. And so far, we have inspected about 500 properties, and we issued about 235 permits so far up to date. And most of the comments we've been hearing, I'm going to try to stop this slide so we can get back to the regular screen. Most of the comment we've been hearing, whether it's from property owner or tenants or management, has been very positive. The main issue or the obstacle, if you want to call it, we have been struggling with, we've not been able to get the full complete applications from some of the property managers or that are president of the property owner in order for us to continue conducting inspections and issuing permits. With that, if you have any questions or if you have any comment, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Ray, can you introduce the two staff members that help with the program?
Yes, sorry. I want to thank, first of all, Missy. She was very helpful in helping us with this program. And I also want to recognize Andy Boyd and Demetrius Ramirez. They are the two individuals that took this program by the horn and run with it. And also I want to thank April Riley. She's not present right now, but she's a permit tech that was one of the two individuals that we hired for this program, April Riley and Demetrius Ramirez. I really appreciate their help and their work. They worked on this program very, very long hours and tirelessly in order to get this program, get it going. And with their help, we started providing the application by May 1st of 2020. And we already scheduled inspections August of 2020. And Demetrius has been very, very helpful in as far as conducting his inspections, being very professional with the property owners. And like I said, he provided the information that he's been getting a lot of positive reviews from the tenant or property owner as far as dealing with this program.
Thank you.
Very good, very good. Just as a note, Mr. Walters joined us and is connected, and so is now Bonnie Mims. Just if,
Apologies for being late.
okay.
Had a little trouble.
Anybody got any comments or questions, Mr. Van Buskirk?
Yeah, thank you, Ray. And I appreciate all the hard work that our staff has put in on this ordinance and related to the rental regulation. I left you a message today. I don't know if you got it or not. I didn't hear back from you, but I did have a few questions. But one of them certainly, it indicates there's an amendment to what was there originally. Is that correct? Am I seeing that correctly?
Not tonight. We're just given an update, and I defer that to Alderman Myers regarding the amendments. But basically, our meeting tonight is related to just an update regarding the rental program.
Right, but has it been updated? Is there amendments proposed? That's what I'm asking.
No. Not at this time.
Okay, I was just looking at the ordinance itself where it says section 1 amendment. That's chapter 8, buildings and building regulations, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think that's referring to your ordinance on chapter 8 buildings. I think it's amending that, which is what the original ordinance was pertaining to.
And it did have an amendment.
Yeah, it was amending the existing chapter, like on the title of the ordinance, amending chapter 8 of buildings. So that's how we created the original rental regulations through amending chapter 8.
Okay, I was a little confused about that.
Oh, no problem. No problem.
Appreciate
Derek Ward.
Yeah, I just, wanted to, well, first I'll start by thanking city staff for their hard work on this. I know there's been quite a bit of commentary from some in the community about this ordinance. And I will admit, I don't think it's a perfect ordinance. I think there are some things that, if I were writing this on my own and proclaiming it by fiat, I probably would have done differently. But, I think it's addressing a serious problem we have in Raytown. And I guess I'm inclined to just let this thing see how it plays out. And if we need to come back and fix some issues, months from now or years from now, I'm certainly open to that. But, I wish to some extent people would just kind of let's see how this gets implemented. And, if we need to change it, we'll change it.
Alderman Walters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, the one thing that I've heard, and I had a long discussion with Missy, we went into quite a bit of detail of the purpose, and I understand, and I think it's a good purpose. It's good for Raytown. However, there has been some complaint from the community about people that own homes where they have like a grandmother or a son or a daughter living in that house. They're not renting the property to them. They're just letting them live there. And I don't know if it's a whole lot. At last I heard, they had found approximately 30 homes that had that type of situation. And I wonder if it might be amendable at this point, or to bring it back onto the agenda so we can talk about it in a business session, to look at that again and see if we might not charge people who are not charging people rent for these types of inspections and so forth. They have no way to recoup the money. And they're really not in the business of being landlords. They're not. I mean, they have 2 properties, and they're just letting somebody in the family live there. I just don't know if I'm the only one that feels that way. I know there was an RDA meeting, the Raytown Democratic Association, where it was brought up, and I think it was the one subject they spoke about that night. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on that, but I think it's something that we should go back and look at it with the community in mind to see what they have to say about it.
Derek Ward.
Well, I guess so. Mr. Hodges or the city staff, I mean, is it our intent or our belief that this rental ordinance applies to homes that aren't in fact being rented?
Well,
You answer that.
yeah, these homes, if a property is vacant and is not rented out, so we are not asking a property owner to come and obtain a permit and inspect the property. But
Yeah, I'm not talking about vacant houses. I'm talking about the situation that Alderman Walters raised,
Yeah.
where
And
somebody's letting somebody live there for free. To me, that's not a rental house.
understandable. But we've gone off the definition, and the definition still states that if yours is not an owner occupied premise, that is considered a like you mentioned earlier. We also have non-owner occupied as far as property to be registered under the rental regulations. So
Well,
you gave 3 different types that was given at the beginning of the presentation. that included non-owner occupied rental units as well as rental properties. So those three are the ones that up under the definition that that property that you're mentioning still goes up under rental regulations.
So let's say instead of John Smith owning it and letting his, mother Nancy Smith live there, he puts it in the John Smith Trust, and she's a beneficiary of the trust. I mean, would that be owner occupied then?
That would be I can't say about that one. That would be something probably have to be reviewed. But if it's all up under the same trust and someone's there, I don't know on that one. That definition wise, we have to look at that.
Okay.
But typically, the ones we're talking about is typically someone may live out of town and say that, oh, the property that I have here in Raytown is being lived in by a family member. Well, on our side, that's hard for us to prove who's living and who's doing what. So we're trying to use.
How would we know? I mean, if somebody's letting their mom live there, how would we know?
How would we know which one? If their mom was living there?
Yeah, so John Smith lets his mother live in that house. How would we know that she's not the owner?
Generally, it's based on whether or not the deed is in the name of whoever owns the house, and you match that up with the utility bills.
Well, so let's say that John's mom, Nancy, the name was in her husband's name. He's passed away, and now it's not in her name, but I mean, how would we be able to distinguish that?
Repeat that one more time, though. You're saying.
Well, I mean, let's say a husband and wife are married, and the husband owns the house before he gets married, and then he predeceases his wife. The wife's name's not going to be on that deed. The utility bills may all be in his name, but the utility company is not going to care. Are we going to say that's not owner occupied, even though, she may have lived there for 50 years and raised her family there?
Well, those are things if you're something you can prove in that sense. You're saying that a husband and wife, you have a marriage certificate to show that it was a husband and wife and that they lived together and that the husband deceased, that can be proven and shown to us.
But somebody would have to go and prove that just by virtue of the fact that their name's not on the deed, even though they've lived there for 50 years.
Could be if nothing is in their name, that could be the scenario. But that would be the scenario whether or not it was regulations.
I share Mr. Walters' concerns on this, but I go back to my prior remarks. I mean, there's going to be some hiccups in getting this thing implemented, but I think overall it's a good bill, and I think we need to be open to fixing it if we find flaws.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree. There are going to be times when you find flaws. Mr. Azier?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got several questions. First of all, I'm really excited about what we're doing. I think it's going to make a difference to our city. I just would like to respond to that last question. I think that anything we do in any area, you always have to apply the rule of reason. And, we're not trying to, take a magnifier out and look at fine lines. I mean, for example, if my dad loaned me the car, and I'm a teenager and I'm driving it, the question is, have I stolen the car? Am I running it? I mean, if I get stopped, they could say you're the owner. I mean, there's a lot of things that we run into life that it's like if my son wants to live with me and I say, you got to help pay for the food, does it come under the rental regulations? And I don't think that we're trying to do that here as a city. We're talking about people who are making a living off of property. So that being what it is, I do want to make a couple. I have several questions. One, Andy, I know there's people that are going to be actually enforcing this, or they're going to be out there, in the bush doing the work. Andy Boyd, we haven't heard from you. What's your job, Andy?
Well, currently I pretty much do the job I've always done. Even though I'm the inspector supervisor, but I mean, I work closely with everything that's happening, but pretty much I've kind of been on the sideline to now, other than attending all the meetings and working with the ordinance and all that, but I'm not really hands-on a whole lot right now.
And Mr. Ramirez, what's your background You know, can you tell us, you're the one that's gonna be kind of the trailblazer here, the foreman is, how would you describe your position?
Well, my background is I'm a certified building inspector. So I can go to new properties, new construction sites and do inspections there. I'm also a property management inspector, housing inspector. So basically that's codes. So anything to do with the property I can inspect and look at. I think in the beginning of this program, you're going to have some tweaks that you're going to want to make, because no program when you first start, it's going to be, the best. There's going to be little things we're going to learn here and there. And you guys mentioned, if a gentleman passes away and his wife lives there and her name's not on the deed. Well, like you said, we're not going after those kind of people for this program. So there are going to be some leniency with that, and they will not, most of the time those people will not be allowed to, they won't be made to be in the program. We've already made some exceptions to that already, so.
Great, so, and I just have just some thoughts, okay? So you inspect, excuse me. So I would assume it's conceivable that after 6 months of rent, if a renter had a complaint and they walked into your office, I mean, the city, because of the position we're putting ourselves in, I could see us receiving complaints about the landlord. How does that fit into this program? Or what if they came in and complained to you about what's going on in the house? How would we handle that?
So right now we've got a policy where if a tenant comes in and makes a complaint about a rental property, we ask them to have a document explaining the deficiencies of the property and send it to the property management or the owner and have it certified, have a certified letter sent. And then after 2 weeks of time, if they haven't done any corrections to the property or haven't scheduled an inspection to fix the items, then I tell them to come back, and then we'll get involved. We'll contact the property management or the owner and say, we're going to perform an inspection, and what we find, we're going to have you fix something if it needs to be fixed. So there's a little bit of a waiting period. We have received complaints about rental properties, but unfortunately, not everyone is in the program yet. So we don't have any teeth on some of these properties, but that's our intentions are to be a mediator between the landlord and the tenant to try and help fix things for everybody.
Right. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I would recommend that. I know this is a young program, but maybe we could have like a little information sheet that you give to all of the aldermen, because if they're getting questions, it would probably save them time and you time if they had the information you just told us in hand, so they could answer questions. Because I could see that that could be a problem. I would also recommend that, I know this is not part of the ordinance, but I don't want to use the word require, but encourage landlords to give their tenants a copy of that Renter's Bill of Rights. The book I'm talking about, it's a small pamphlet. If the landlords gave it to them up front, that might help solve some of those problems. Or, anytime someone walks into your office, it's more time you're going to have to spend. So anything we can do up front to prevent that, it's going to help you out. So that's just a suggestion.
Mr. Frazier, I hate to cut you off, but we are over time now and we need to get started on our regular meeting.
All right. I do have more questions, and I guess I'll have to come. I would come to Ray to talk about those then.
You can send them to me or kind of.
Yeah, send them to Damon.
Okay. I don't really want to send them to. I got several questions here that.
Okay. We can set up something automatic.
So we'll have to.
Just give me a call tomorrow. We can set up something together.
All right. Thank you. I have questions about, for example, owners that are out of state. How you're going to handle that. I just would like to know more about that.
Yeah, it's a good question. It really is. All right, Mary Jane Van Buskirk, you got 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say that this is long overdue. I think this is in the best interest of Raytown and its citizens to improve their property value. And I'm behind it 100%. I say, let's go. Long overdue.
Thank you, Mary Jane. All right, do I hear a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Who did so move?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Van
can I
Buskirk.
make one quick comment first, please? I
Go
just,
ahead, make it 1
Okay.
minute, please.
I'll make it quick. I just want to say, this is something we've been trying to achieve for many, many years. I'm glad we're doing it. And as Mr. Ward said earlier, certainly there may be some changes we need to make. This thing isn't etched in stone. If we need to do that, we can do it down the road. And I think we probably, questions need to be addressed probably to staff. It would be a lot better than probably trying to do it through the aldermen who are probably not going to get it quite right. I think going directly to staff would be the best route if there's questions, people have questions. Thank you.
I agree, Ms. Van Buskirk. All right, do I have a motion for adjournment?
I did, so move.
All right, Ms. Mims, second. Mary Jane, was that was you?
Yes.
Okay, Mary Jane Van Buskirk. Let's do this by affirmation. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? All right, we are adjourned.